Well, the 2024 national champion Ohio State Buckeyes took to the Horseshoe this afternoon to celebrate and put a bow on what was a historic run to the national championship. We come to you live from Ohio Stadium next on the Buckeye Breakdown Podcast.
We've got the whole crew together as we cover Ohio State
with our instant analysis from Ohio State.
There's something that doesn't feel right.
Unbelievable effort from him today.
Is E.J. Liddell going to crack the first team All-Big Ten?
I think he can be the guy. I'm not trying to start a quarterback controversy.
He seems to have the durability. He certainly has the toughness. This is the question on a lot of people's minds here. Welcome to Buckeye Breakdown.
And welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Buckeye Breakdown Podcast. Anthony Moeglin here in cold, overcast Columbus, Ohio, inside Ohio Stadium, as today was the final touch. They put a bow on the incredible 2024 season that ended just last week down in Atlanta with a victory over the Notre Dame Fighting Irish to crown the Ohio State Buckeyes the 2024 national champions. And today was an incredible celebration of everything that this team accomplished. And it was really cool to be inside this stadium. And it was actually a fairly solid turnout. Pretty much the entire lower bowl, if you didn't get to catch it on TV, pretty much the entire lower bowl was pretty filled. The student section obviously didn't have any, and then there was some folks in the C deck and that top deck kind of scattered about. So it was pretty cool to see the Buckeye Nation, the Buckeye faithful, come and show out as the Buckeyes celebrated this national championship run. And as you folks are jumping in here today, jump into that comment section. It's obviously tough. I'm running solo here, so I won't be able to pull many of them up, but I got to give a shout out to some of our guys who've been with us all year long. Doug, you've been a constant on every one of our shows, so really appreciate you jumping in. And yes, it is absolutely a great day to be a Buckeye. So as you're jumping in here, jump into that comment section. Let me know where you're at, where you watch the national title from, and if you got to watch this championship celebration today in the Horseshoe. And yeah, certainly there wasn't a game played, and there's not much to frankly to really talk about. But what I think is super important, and it was cool to kind of relive, was just how historic this run was to the national championship for Ohio State. Because you look back at at this season as a whole, and when you get into the weeds of it all, you get into the week by week, you kind of forget just how long this team played. Some of the stats that were shared today were pretty impressive. 16 games was the most ever played by an Ohio State team. Obviously, outside of Notre Dame, the most that any college team has ever played. This was the 10th time inside Ohio Stadium, but there was 9 home games, which is the most that's ever been had, or that's the most any Ohio State team has ever had in a season, excuse me. And then some of the stats you kind of go through. Will Howard was incredible this year. Obviously, Jeremiah Smith led the Big Ten in receiving in both yards and touchdowns. The defense was incredible, number 1 defense in a number of different categories. And when you kind of put everything together, you really then just realize how historic this season was. And specifically speaking about this playoff run that Ohio State went on, the final tally was Ohio State beat 6 top 10 teams in the country, 5 teams in the top 5. And in their playoff run, they clipped off a bunch of them. Tennessee in the top 10. And then you take on Oregon, who's the number 1 team in the country, Texas, the number 3 team in the country, Notre Dame, the number 4 team in the country. Like, that is one hell of a resume that this Ohio State team put together. And as you, like we said, as you go week by week, you just kind of take care of what's in front of you. You don't really look back and you don't really look forward. But Ohio State did that and did it in really impressive fashion. They won every single playoff game by over double digits, by 10 or more points. Obviously, get that field goal at the end of regulation in the national championship to win that game by 11. And it's crazy, that Tennessee game. And I'll get into Ryan Day's speech here in just a little bit, because I thought it was really, really cool. But that Tennessee game played on this field. I stood right over there saying how big of a challenge Ohio State had on their hands, and they came out right from the jump and just dominated that football game. Then they take that all the way to the West Coast and get out on the number 1 team in the country, the Oregon Ducks, 31-0 with 9 minutes to go in the second quarter. Yeah, 31-0. There was 9 minutes left in the second quarter, and that game was a stunner for everybody. For us, for Buckeye fans, it was a stunner in a positive way. You're like, no way this is true, but it was. This team was on a dominant roll, and then they faced a little adversity playing Texas. got to a point where it was late in the game and the game was tied. Will Howard had to make a big play, and then obviously the play that's going to be the kind of the signature play of the season. Jack Sawyer strip sack, 83-yard touchdown to take a 4th and goal scenario where Texas was looking to tie the game, and instead Ohio State goes up 14. And then the national championship game, you get out to a huge lead, 31-7. Feels like this game's all wrapped up, feels like the celebration was going to start, and then Notre Dame kind of creeps back into it. They continue to fight. They're resilient. They score. Then they force a fumble. They score again. And now it's 3rd and 11, and if Ohio State has to punt, Notre Dame's got to have a chance with 2.5 minutes to go with the 2-minute timeout with an opportunity to go tie a football game, and instead – let's call him the 19-year-old. Jeremiah Smith up the sidelines, man-to-man coverage. That was the story of the week leading up, the game that week leading up. If Notre Dame is going to play man-to-man coverage, how is Ohio State going to make them pay? And they made them pay in the biggest way possible. So you put all that together in just a few short minutes. You're like, man, that run was incredible, and it was really cool to be a part of. Now, one of the people that really rode the roller coaster this year was Ryan Day. Tons of pressure every single year being the Ohio State head coach, but this year the kind of the most, right? It was hadn't beaten Michigan his whole career. Has the best team this Ohio State program seen in a long time. Has a bunch of seniors coming back to kind of right all their wrongs, to get the win in their rivalry game, to go on and win a national title, and gets off to a solid start. New quarterback, new coordinator, a couple new guys in different places, kind of work their way through the month of September. Then you get into October and November, and you get into that November month, and it felt like this Ohio State team was starting to go downhill. I look at that Nebraska game where, frankly, they should have lost. Right, it took a late game, some heroics there late to get a 21-17 victory over Nebraska, and then fast forward a couple weeks, that game against the team up north obviously come up really short, and it's like, this isn't looking good. This is going to be a tough task. This team isn't where you want it to be, and they've talked about it a bunch. They had a team, players only. It's funny, it's players only, they like to say, but Coach Day was there. But it was a closed-door meeting, and it was basically like a family meeting, right? A lot of truths were told, some hard truths, some tough ones where, the team needed to come together. They needed to all do their part to play a little bit better. Good thing they had it, because the result is this. The result is a national championship. And what was really cool, really cool from today was something I think we all can be excited about. I got 2 video clips, and if you haven't seen Coach Day's speech, I really would recommend go finding it. Big Ten Network was here. It was live on Big Ten Network, so maybe they'll do a replay. Maybe you can find it on YouTube at some point today. But grab 2 pieces from the start of Coach Day's speech, and I'll play this first one here. And really my takeaway from it was, first of all, the OHIO throughout this stadium was pretty darn cool this afternoon. But secondly, just seeing kind of the weight lifted off of his shoulders, I thought was pretty cool. So check this first one out. Yeah, it never sounded any better than it did today. I kind of cut it off there at the end, but you can't help but feel just an immense sense of happiness for Ryan Day, for his family. Obviously, those stories have been well documented. It was a pretty tough couple weeks leading up to the playoff for him, for his wife, for his kids, and you're just so happy for him to get to this point. He wins a lot. 87% win percentage right now, which is crazy. 71 wins in his career is out of control. And he's as good as it gets. And this team is as good as it gets. And really that was one of the big things that I took away. I'll play the second video here, and then we can kind of move along a little bit, talking about.
And the national championship trophy is back where it belongs in the great state of Ohio.
Yeah, that national championship trophy being back where it belongs in the great state of Ohio. You're pretty pumped about it. But like I said, I recommend you go find his speech, because it was awesome. First of all, he thanked the entire team, thanked every single one of his coaches, went through a lot of those details. Then he pulled up his senior captains, his leaders, Jack Sawyer, Cody Simon, Emeka Ibuka, all pulled him up. And Travion Henderson all pulled him up. They gave a couple minutes of their thoughts and some really cool stuff. Jack Sawyer even teased that he was going to come back for another year, and the place kind of erupted a little bit. And then he's like, just kidding. I got to go get out of here. He said, Coach Day told me time is up. I got to get the heck out of here. So that was pretty funny. But then what I thought was really cool is kind of the closer, if you will, of Ryan Day's speech. It was about a 15-minute closure, but it was really neat. He talked about the theme of the portion was, where were you when? Where were you when Ohio State took on Penn State in Happy Valley and won 20-13, and Davison Igbinosun had an interception at the end of the half, and then they had a goal line stand to win the football game? Where were you when they came in here in that first round of the playoffs at night when felt like everyone from Tennessee tried to come and take the stadium over, and Ohio State trounced them? Where were you then? Where were you when Ohio State went up to the Rose Bowl and dominated the Oregon Ducks from start to finish? Where were you when Jack Sawyer won the football game single-handedly with the strip sack? Where were you when Ohio State beat Notre Dame to be named national champions? And in between each one of those points, he would say a little bit, and then they'd go up to the video board, and they had kind of a montage of that game. And that's when it kind of hits you. That's when it hits you like, holy cow, some of these games, you think back to that Penn State game was in early November, right? Where you're like, oh man, that's now almost 3 months ago, right? That's almost 3 months ago that happened. And you think back to all of those incredible moments. You think that Tennessee game was 6 weeks ago, which is out of control. This team had to endure not only a long season, but had to endure ups and downs, lefts and rights, good times, bad times, and they were able to do it and do it in an incredible way. And I think the most important point for Buckeye fans is he ended it on a really, really good note. He said, "We ain't done yet. We got more to come. We got another championship to go chase." I think his direct words were, "We'll be back here. We're going to get another one," or something along those lines. But regardless, an incredible day for the Ohio State football program, an incredible day, for this Ohio State football team. This is a very unique group. This is a group that's really close. I've seen a lot of football teams in my past. I've been on some teams that were as close as you could get. I've been on teams that it was hard to go into the locker room every day because guys didn't like each other, teams didn't get along. And that can be really tough. This group specifically is very impressive. How I guess mature they are is one way to say it, but also how close they are. This is some transfers, some not. Some guys who have been at Ohio State for 4 years, some that are brand new to the program, and they came together. They did what they needed to do, and now their names will be etched in Ohio State history for the rest of the time. And you can only be incredibly thrilled for those players, for all of them. Some names that are going to stick around and in the historic fashion for Ohio State. Will Howard. This is a guy who's a 4-year member of Kansas State, comes here on his grad year. He's a Buckeye for life now. Cody Simon, the Block O. He's a Buckeye for life. Travion Henderson, you'll never forget him. Quinshawn Judkins, that's a transfer who now had 3 touchdowns in the national championship game for Ohio State. And Jack Sawyer, that play is going to be looped over and over and over again. Donovan Jackson, Josh Fryer, in my opinion, need to be talked about in the same sentence as those guys, because those are 2 guys who came up huge for this team. Josh Fryer was the scapegoat last year. He was what everybody talked about at the end of last season when things didn't go right and Ohio State didn't get into the playoff. But he turned around and he was incredible for 16 games. 16 games he played, didn't get hurt. Played through a ton of injuries, I'm sure, but was a stout right tackle for Ohio State. And then Donovan Jackson moved from guard to probably one of the best left tackles in all of the country. May even get drafted as a tackle. We'll see how that shakes out. But there's just a number of names on guys on this team that are Buckeye legends now for the rest of their lives, and it's really, really cool. So appreciate everybody jumping in with me today. And again, thanks so much for jumping in the comments section. I'm going to this will be the end of our season 2, right? I think that, I just want to take a quick second to thank you all. I know there's a handful of folks that are in here, that are in here all the time with me, hanging out with myself, Kevin, Brennan, whoever jumps on the show. It's awesome to see your guys' faces, and this show's grown this year. So we really appreciate that. But that's not to say we're not back. We're going to kick off the 2025 season this week, right? We're going to start looking at the next version of Ohio State, start looking at the recruiting class, see where we need to go, because while we're really excited today, the work begins soon. Technically speaking, spring ball starts in just 6 weeks here for Ohio State. That's a daunting thing to say. So these guys need some time off. Obviously, the schedule, the college football schedule is a big topic of conversation going forward. But regardless of all that, we're going to be back with you here next week. I say that like it's not Sunday afternoon. We're going to be back with you this week as we get things start getting things set for the 2025 season, because this Ohio State team is going to be loaded again. Obviously, the biggest question is going to be at quarterback, and we'll try to find our solution to that. So if you hung out with me all year long, thank you so much. If you're new to the show, I really would appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button, follow us on Twitter, follow us here on YouTube. We love doing content just like this, and we're looking forward to a great year next year. I'm gonna really amp it up next year, and we're really excited for it. So another place to go check out our work, si.com/college/Ohio State. Over there, we cover everybody. We got basketball, we got men's basketball, women's basketball, we got wrestling, we got everything you could think of for Ohio State. We got content on. So really appreciate you making us a stop in your Buckeye content journey. So for the last time here in the 2024 season, we're going to sign off from inside the Horseshoe. Tons of games here, tons of fun. Thanks so much for hanging out with me this year. Really appreciate you being with me, and looking forward to another great year. Appreciate it. Anthony Moeglin here, signing off on the Buckeye Breakdown podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes on SI YouTube channel.